And now everyone ends up there. What a change we have. Today, you know, in the world, the average is 2.5. Imagine, you know, it used to be 50 years ago 5, and the world has changed. The average number of babies born per woman have gone from 5 to 2.5, and it's still decreasing. What a big change. People would think that Bangladesh and countries like that is some sort of epicenter of a population bomb. They couldn't be more wrong. To me, health workers like Mrs. Taslima and their colleagues, who have taken their countries from this side all over in a few decades to much better health and small families, they are the heroes of our time. It's an amazing change that has happened. We no longer live in a divided world. But how much do people know about this amazing change? At Gapminder, we not only show data, we also measure how much people know or don't know about the world. So we did a first survey in Sweden. The results were depressing. So we did our second survey in Britain, and we had high hopes because the British have been all over the place, you know. So we thought we would get good results here. The first question we asked was, how many babies do women have on average in Bangladesh? And we gave 4 alternatives: 2.5, 3.5, 4.5, or 5.5. This is the result of the British survey. But you know the right answer. It's 2.5. Only 12% of the British got it right. So we thought that perhaps it was those with low education who dragged down the result. So we segmented those who had been to the fine British universities and had a university degree. And here they are. This is the result. If anything, worse. So now you may conclude that the British lack knowledge about the world. What if I would have asked this chap and his friends? I would have written the different answers on bananas and let them pick one banana each, you know. This result I would get. Of course, chimps know nothing about Bangladesh. But by pure random, they will pick twice as many correct answers as the British. And of the British, you know, more than half of the British people think it's 4.5 or more. The problem here is not lack of knowledge, it's preconceived ideas. The British cannot even imagine, cannot even guess that women in Bangladesh have 2.5, and you know it's really 2.2 already. This is what the Brits don't know, that Taslima and her family are the norm in Bangladesh today, the most common family size. And it's not only there, it's all over the world. In Brazil, 2-child families. Vietnam, 2-child families. And even in India, the most common family size is 2 children today. And also if you go to the African continent, you go to the big cities here, Addis Ababa, you have less than 2 children per woman today in Addis Ababa. There can be Muslim, Buddhist, Hindu, Christian. There's not one religion, not one culture, not one continent where 2-child families cannot have. This change from big families down to 2-child families is one of the most important things that have happened in the world during my lifetime. It's unprecedented.
Hello guys, are you hearing me?
Yes, sir.
Did I have that video playing through the share?
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir, it is, but we weren't seeing it.
Ah, right, okay, yeah. It's actually a video for today, but I didn't realize it was playing in the background until I put on my headset. Anyway, welcome guys to another advanced computing tool. All right, so last week, well, technically it's last week. There we go. All right. Yes. So last week we touched a little bit we spoke a little bit about being productive in a digital world, right? We got introduced to OneNote, showed you a quick example of how we can use OneNote. And the idea is that we want to use some method of digitally taking notes while we are going through the rest of this module, right? All right. Then we touched a little bit on infographics. We started to look on a little bit of interesting infographics, and that is what we're going to jump to today. Remember, our mission here in Advanced Computing 2 is that we want to learn a bit from other industries that's adjacent to architecture. Learn some lessons and then take them into architecture. So we are on the topic of graphics, and we looked at an example last time of how can we use information graphics to help enhance our architectural presentation. I showed you guys of this presentation that's here that had a mixture of architectural, elements like plans, elevations, that kind of stuff, but also had some inclusion of information graphics as well as a kind of hybrid that I call architectural information graphics. That's what we used to do these, and I want you guys to have the ability to create these types of graphics. Now, before we do that, we do need to kind of understand what infographics is, and we're going to jump right into that. Yes, we did look at some examples. My objective here today is to give you a good roadmap of how you can create these graphics for yourself. Now, you're still going to need to know a bit about graphics and things like vectors and images and editing images and cutting out images, and there's these technical parts that we do need to understand, but that is foundational knowledge that you would have had already for the last couple of years. At this stage now, when you're 1 foot out the door, you should already have this knowledge, and now it's about applying that to create awesome outcomes like what we see here. So I'm going to show you an approach to how you can create information graphics, and then we're going to apply that in the architectural realm. Perhaps what we'll do is probably by the time the end of class today, we'll go through the approaches. We'll probably have a working class for our next class, when we can kind of get into the weeds a little bit in terms of the program and how we can use the program to do that. Remember, this is not a tutorial course, so I'm not going to be showing you how to use Photoshop, Illustrator, that stuff. But I can show you how you can, for example, use Illustrator to generate graphs, at least to begin with, or how you can get graphs from, I would say, get assets from other sources, and then take that, use elements from those sources to create your graphics. So let us start off with Ta-ta. It's coming, guys. I'm just waiting for this thing to start up. Here we go. Oh no. Full screen monitor. I did do that. Ah, there we go. No, that's this one. Ah. Hold on, guys, while I try to get this guy working on the screen. There we go. Can you guys see the screen okay?
Yes, we can.
All right. Wait a minute. Is this the class? Shouldn't there be some more people? I guess they're on their way. Is there something happening today?
There are classes before this, so.
Oh, there's probably stuck a little bit in that class. Oh man. Well, it is 3:20. So, what class do you have before this? Is it history?
So I had ethics.
Right. And the other group? Are you probably not sure what's on their timetable? All right. No worries. Well, guess what? We will have the recording here. So, and you all know where to go for the recording already, right? Right? Right, Karuma? You know where to go for the recordings, right? Kimona? Are you here?
Yes, sir.
Ah, sorry. Did I call you Karuma a while ago? I'm sorry. I don't know why that name is on my brain. You know where to go for the recordings, right?
For the class recordings,
Yeah. Maybe
on the
not so
website,
sure.
somewhere on the website.
Right. So to access the class recordings, well, this is not you. This is EDM. Right. So advanced computing. Okay, hold on. So when you go to the website, which looks like this, right? You just see the big red button that says class recordings. Then you click on your subject, Advanced Computing 2, and then you look for 2024, 25. And then when you go in there, you will see the recordings. All right?
Okay, sir.
All right. So for those of you who maybe got stuck in a previous class, that's where you go if you want to catch up on what was being done. All right. So let us begin.
See this guy? He is afraid for his life. This drawing is an 1832 joke. It's a riff on how nobody knew how to prevent cholera. You might suspend a chorus over your masked mouth, or wear a copper breastplate and tie pitchers of water behind your calves. Anything to keep the disease away. Starting in the 1830s, Cholera pandemics swept the United Kingdom. Nobody knew how the disease was transmitted. Germs weren't an established idea. One London doctor, John Snow, tried to find out how the disease spread, and today, one of his investigations is iconic in the field of epidemiology. And it all centered on a pump. This is a map John Snow made to prove his solution to the cholera mystery in London. It also shows the confusion and the problems he was up against. Each of these bars represents a death from cholera. The disease often killed half the people who got it. It caused vomiting and diarrhea. The rapid loss of fluids was fatal. At the time, a lot of people believed cholera was transmitted in a miasma. Imagine an evil cholera cloud. This typical map from the 1840s shows a cholera mist that was blamed for transmission. Snow suspected a different source. At the time, people usually didn't get water directly in their homes. It came from a neighborhood pump connected to one of the few water companies in the city. John Snow mapped different water companies' service areas in London. You can see how they are occasionally separate and occasionally overlap. If a common pump was contaminated at any point, at the source or near the pump, Snow believed the water could kill. In 1849, he wrote that his study of symptoms and specific cases had led him to suspect the emptying of sewers into the drinking water of the community caused outbreaks, not a miasma. 5 years later, he had a chance to prove it and stop a fresh outbreak in the process. In August 1854, 20 people lived here at 40 Broad Street, including an infant who died of cholera. After her death, Snow started to investigate the outbreak. He didn't think the original water source was the problem, but he thought something might be wrong down the line. At the pump, he took samples of the water. They seemed clean, but he wasn't satisfied because more people were getting sick. He asked questions up and down the street where one man had noticed a bad smell from his water. Snow asked the registrar for a list of people who died. He started going house by house to interview the survivors, and many of the dead had taken water from the pump. He became convinced the Broad Street pump was the common link among the dead. He wrote, "I had an interview with the Board of Guardians of St. James Parish on the evening of Thursday, 7th September, and represented the above circumstances to them. In consequence of what I said, the handle of the pump was removed on the following day. People stopped using the water." But Snow had not won yet. Newspapers reported the streets were covered in lime. The city was using it as a powerful disinfectant on the streets. That showed they weren't fully convinced the pump was the problem. They still suspected miasma, so Snow bolstered his case through investigation and recording. He learned the 18 workers who died at this factory had drunk from big barrels of water drawn from the pump. At the same time, unlikely survivors could serve as proof of Snow's theory. According to miasma theory, this place would have been covered in cholera clouds, affecting all workers. But Snow learned the workhouse had its own well. No bad water got in. The same went for this brewery. That's because Snow learned the workers there drank from the brewery's water supply, or more likely, only drank the free malt liquor they got on the job. That's right. Drinking on the job saved their lives. Snow strengthened his argument and his map. He adjusted the location of the pump to show how close it was to 40 Broad Street and drew a dotted line. He showed a zone where it would be closest to walk to the Broad Street pump rather than another one. That zone is where most people died. He tabulated every death by date to do it. This was paired with a local reverend's similar data-driven investigations. A local surveyor looked at the plumbing at 40 Broad Street, where the infant had died. He learned that the cesspool, where sewage collected, was poorly designed and lined with decaying bricks. When the infant's diapers had been washed, the cholera-carrying water had leaked into the Broad Street pump supply. John Snow died in 1858. His obituary read, "Dr. John Snow, this well-known physician, died at noon on the 16th instant at his house in Sackville Street from an attack of apoplexy. His researches on chloroform and other anesthetics were appreciated by the profession." At the time, Snow was more famous for stuff like a chloroform inhaler than a map. It took years for the investigation of John Snow to become an example for subsequent outbreaks and epidemiology textbooks, and it slowly, eventually, helped end the miasma myth. That's because Snow did not just make a map of a city, it's a map of his process and the field it shaped. It gave direction to a world where disease didn't have to be hidden in a cloud. Instead, it could start at a pump.
All right, guys. So what does this have to do with infographics? Right. Well, firstly, the reason why this story is interesting is because this was basically the birth of infographics. So here you had this famous doctor that was basically, they were trying to figure out what was causing people to die. They know it was cholera, but they thought it was like a cloud and all of that. And the doctor was there trying to tell them that, no, I don't think it's that. I don't think it's an evil cloud. I think it's coming from the water. Kind of seems like a joke, no, because of course we know a lot of stuff, about the medical thing. The interesting thing is when they went through all of that research, like if you think about all of the research that was done, I'm going to show you these, you have text and documents and a lot of tabulations and research. The interesting thing is, even without the numbers, when you look at this map here, which is basically another representation of this map. Kemai, what does this map tell you just by you visually looking at it? Are you
So
here?
like it's that, yes, sir.
Mm-hmm.
So to me it looks like people are where people gather.
Right. So this was the map that they were speaking about in the video. And this was the way that Jon Snow referred to his information. When he tried to present it as words and say, hey, and they wrote this long report and all of that, they wouldn't believe him. But then when he showed this map where you could instantly see, here's another version over here, where every bar represents a person who has died. So let me translate. Every red dot represents a person that has died. Right? So Kemai, what does this map tell you now?
So you just say it represents people that just died.
Right.
So,
What is the
then
story?
shows,
What is the
this
story?
then shows most people have died.
Mhm.
So it gives an understanding
Around the pump, right?
around a certain area, yes, sir.
Exactly. And this is the power of infographics. Even though they did all of that research, world-renowned doctor, blah, 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 write a bunch of reports. It was only until they visually represented and say, hey, look at this. Obviously, there are more people dying here, and there is a pump that is here. And the good thing about infographics is that whereas a document would require that, certain medical terminologies or whatever, everybody can look on this map and say, no, man, something not going on right here. So if this is people dying, why so much persons dying at this spot? And that is basically how they found out and what led to them realizing that, okay, cholera is caused when water is contaminated. Because at first they didn't believe him, because on the surface, the water looked fine, but it only happened sometimes. And because the data was presented in a way where you cannot deny the fact that there is more people dying here. So unless there is some kind of evil spirit or something there, that is what led people to discover or to start to investigate. And it started from this visual map. And leading from this visual map, what started to happen is that people realized that the best way to communicate information, key thing, information, is by trying to make it visual. So that way you transcend, you're not having to have a certain knowledge for you to read what is happening just by you looking on this map. So that is kind of where infographics has been born from. And it has been used throughout almost every field that exists today.
What's an infographic? An infographic is a combination of the words information and graphic. According to Merriam-Webster, an infographic is a chart, diagram, or illustration that uses graphic elements to present information in a visually striking way. Meanwhile, the Oxford Learner's Dictionary defines infographics as information or data shown in a chart or diagram, so they are easy to understand. So, what do these definitions have in common? In a nutshell, infographics bring together the best of data and visuals to craft a story or convey an idea more cohesively. Combining both data and visuals in an infographic can help make your information more striking, shareable, and easy to understand. The beauty of infographics is that they're versatile. You can share them on social media or attach them to an email. You can also embed an infographic on your website or print it out as a brochure or poster. Do you need numerical data to be able to make infographics? Not necessarily. You can make an infographic based on qualitative information, like when you want to explain a process, define an idea, or highlight differences and similarities between two or more concepts. The possibilities with infographics are endless. Ready to make beautiful, engaging infographics?
All right, so, whoops, did I close this? My bad. So infographics are visual representation of information. It's basically knowledge that you intend to present quickly and clearly, right? And basically it's a way of summarizing information. In the example that we saw before, it was a way of convincing people that, look, there is something happening in this area, because when I represented it in an infographic, that is when people started to pay attention. So you can kind of think of this as three ingredients: the information, some kind of diagram, and here is the kicker, the most interesting part, the creativity. So these are the three things you need for your infographic to be successful, right? And we looked at some infographics before. Remember, we looked at this one here that spoke about the planting of trees, right? And it has the data. So it has the information. Here it is. They're all here. It has a diagram. And it is creative. What do you think, Rachel? Does this infographic look creative to you?
Yes, sir. I like the colors.
There you go. So automatically things that you learn from DDM days, remember when we started to learn about how colors go together, contrast and principles of design, elements of design, you even learn a bit of this in Design Studio. So creativity is what links in, is the bridge where infographic can cross over into architecture, right? By definition, by default, you guys are all creative. You come up with these great ideas for your designs, right? Infographics also needs creativity. But the reason why it's especially super powerful, especially in architecture, is because of the information. So remember how we looked at some of these examples before, and um, we were able to deduce information from this where minimum words were used, but a lot of information was communicated. So this plus this plus this equals infographics, right? So the information, so if I should just give you a basic example of this, information, a percentage of the Earth's population has access to clean water. So 24% of the Earth's population have access to clean water, and hence 76 have access to untreated water. So this is some information that I just told you. What about a diagram? How could we represent this information? Samantha, how could I represent this information? Are you there, Samantha?
Sure, I wasn't paying attention.
Well, at least you're honest. So 24% of the Earth's population has access to clean water. What would be the best way to represent this information in a kind of diagram? What would you use to show this? If you didn't want to use text, how could you show this?
Sure, could use a chart,
What kind of chart?
pie chart, bar graph.
There you go. Exactly. That's a diagram. So I could use in this case, a pie chart, and I could say, okay, 24% have access to clean water, and 76% has access to untreated water. So that takes care of the information and the diagram, but what about the creativity? And this is what makes an infographic special. Without the creativity, all you have is a chart. And to get a chart, you can easily go into Excel or Google Sheets and generate a chart. But what makes infographics special is the creativity aspect. So let's add creativity to this. How can we make this more creative, but still communicate the same information? Well, look at this. So now we mix creativity because we're talking about the earth, the world. So we use a globe. We still have the diagram. We still have the pie chart. Can you see the pie chart? Who I don't talk to from a com? Justin, can you see the pie chart in this diagram?
Yes, sir. The water at the bottom kind of like
Exa
cleans up.
yeah, exactly. It looks like it's filling up the earth as a globe. And then it has the information as well. Now, part of the information is in the fact that it has text at the top. And another part is that you're seeing the information here. So the fact that you can see the information is what is the kicker. So if you remember that example that we had earlier, when we saw this map, we could see the information. Granted, this wasn't exactly the creative, right? Maybe it would have been creative to use some black skulls representing death. You know, granted, this was a serious situation and a true story. In this case, it was just the information and the data. I would say the creativity in this point in time is being able to represent that in a way that people can look at it and say, no, man, something is happening here. So the other part of creativity is how do you show the the text that goes with the diagram. In this case, it's on the top. I'm going to throw out some interesting questions here, right? So what about Lynch? Are you here, Lynch?
Yes, sir.
There is a hidden creativity within this diagram here. So obviously the most obvious part is that we're talking about the earth. So the earth is now the pie chart. Fine. And the water that fills it up tells you the percent. What other graphical connection do you notice in this infographic that is considered creative? Do you see it?
Not sure. I would say that maybe it could be the choice of countries that they show.
All right, that's a good assumption. That is true, but that's not it in this case. Right? Can anybody give me did anybody find it, or should I give a clue? I give a clue? Sorry, I can't give out any money, right? Unfortunately.
Sir,
Yeah.
can you go back to the other slide, please? One before.
I mean, there's no clue on the slide before. No trick question. So it's not on the slide before. Everything you need is right here. So we're talking about how we injected creativity in this infographic. So yes, we use the globe and we use the water to kind of represent, right? But there is more creativity that is also in this. And
Sir, is it that the part that they're saying has access to clean water is actually that part that's underwater right there? So that would be like South America? Is that it?
not necessarily. It doesn't have to do with the country, but
Oh.
that's also a good guess, similar to what I heard before.
Sir,
Uh-huh.
is it the color that they use to represent the 24% and the color, the water of the earth? It's matching. So it's saying like 24% is clean, and the bottom part is showing the same color as the text.
Exactly. This is why I want to ask you, Tech, if we can give out prizes, So at least you could have just, go buy a KFC right there. But unfortunately, I have no prize money to give you. But what I have to give is grades, right? So, so yes, that is exactly so. As a matter of fact, all of us probably subconsciously knew that because immediately your brain made the connection that the blue in the 24 is connected to the blue here. So, oh, this blue means here. That is almost like a subconscious thing. And that is only possible in the realm of creativity. So this is like the superpower of infographics. You can use the creativity to make it more powerful, right? If you think about the example that we showed last week with this, like, yeah, there's some technical stuff here, but the way that they showed the comparison with this and this and this is like you're saying, wow, we haven't even begun to save all the trees on the planet yet, right? So, so the creativity is another aspect of it. And if I should represent this like this, 24% of the Earth population has access to clean water, and I would show an airplane that has 24 in there. Like, you would say, okay, what does an airplane have to do with, you get what I'm saying? Not only that, it's different colors and the whole thing don't go together. So there is a wrong way you can do this. Now, here's the trick. When you go into the realm of infographics, it's kind of the tricky realm because it's very easy for it to be wrong if you don't have the creative eye to realize when certain things don't connect, right? I mean, this one is blatantly obvious because, yeah, obviously. There's a plane there and it's talking about the globe. Whereas this one is pretty much easy because, yeah, you can think of the globe and that looks like a pie chart. So why not? I mean, you could use a bar chart and have one represent clean water and one untreated water. But then the globe make more sense, right? So the graphics that's used in infographics should improve the cognition, right? It shouldn't make it harder unless you actually want to make it harder, right? So the shape of your infographic also conveys the information. Like right away when you look on this diagram here, and this was an extract that was taken from a architectural thesis, right? So they had where they defined different things that have to do with their design. And before you even read any of this text that's right here, right? If I should ask Maken, what do you think this text is talking about? It would be super easy, right? Right, Maken?
Yes, sir.
Exactly. So the shape of the information matters, which is why the shape of the earth, it just connects to right that. The shape of the airplane doesn't connect with, we're talking about the globe. The shape of this that's linked to materials, it's talking about materials. So what it means is that if you were presented with a architectural, if you are looking at an architectural presentation and you are a particular person that's looking for the sustainable things of your design and you recognize, oh, wait a minute, that's recycle. You could easily start to dive right into the thing that you are interested in. Not because you could have read this tiny little text there, but because you recognize the shape, right? So that is also infographics. Now, in infographics, shape, which is the diagram, and information, which is the text or the numbers or whatever, you want to be able to combine them together. So remember this, the example of the earth. So the earth is the diagram and the information is, 24% of the earth. So what I'm trying to say is that you can have a pie chart that when shaped like the earth, it helps to convey the information easily. So this is how they combine together to get the shape. Now, sometimes, and this is, as I said, this is the creativity part, guys. Like, not everything is straightforward as a globe. Not everything has to have a shape. Like, don't take it literal that if you're talking about a camera, you have to show a camera because you're doing infographics. No, because as you know, creativity can be twisted in many ways to make it more interesting, right? So in this case, the shape is also the pie chart. In this case, the shape is not related to the shape of the graphics, meaning the graphics is outlined like a plane. It's not related to the diagram, which would have been a pie chart. So here's another example here. If you're talking about healthy food, and this is a popular one, where you will see, okay, a plate is round. Why not use it as a pie chart? Pretty straightforward stuff. In some cases, it's not necessarily a chart. So if I should look on this, right? And I should look at the information that this is saying, right? So Londoners will skate over 1 million kilometers this winter, which is equivalent to traveling to the South Pole and back 36 times. Skating for 1 hour burns 320 calories. It's the same amount of calories found in a type of pie and a type of wine. 43 million Okay, let me just stick to the first part here because this is the part I want to talk about. So this isn't necessarily a pie chart or a graph. It's talking about London ice rinks, right? So the ice skate where you skate around, right? Kind of like a skate park for us. We'll be on wheels and they will be on sleds. So if I should ask Barrett, what is the significance of this line that's here in this infographics? What is it trying to say?
The line shows movement. That's one. It shows movement in the swirly way that you'd probably skate.
There you go. Then the way that the text is arranged, it's saying that it's trying to also say that, to how much Londoners will skate is like skating to the South Pole and back. So this is the shape of the South Pole. So you get what I'm saying? The information that you're trying to convey has the appropriate shape. Right? So, this is one of the powers of infographics right there. Right? And you have some others that's right here. Usually in an infographic, you like most elements that you use, you want it to contain information. Like it's a little bit more than just a theme. So just because you're talking about ice skating, that's why you're using a squiggly line. But also the squiggly line is connecting London to the South Pole. So it has a purpose, so to speak, than just being a line there on the drawing, right? And it's not to say that you can't have stuff in your infographic that's, for example, you have these snow-looking things here. I mean, this is decoration. It is in keeping with the theme, and theme is important. But the most important thing on this infographic is still the loudest, right? Well, how do I keep zooming out? Now, this one is one of my favorites, right? And this is another one of those that I want to ask you guys about, right? Where the shape of the infographic conveys, right? Who wants to take on this one, right? So it's pretty straightforward. Mapping paid maternity leave. How many weeks do other nations provide maternity leave compared to the US? Basically, this is what it's saying, right? And we can see the US is here, right? And then, you're seeing the other countries here. And then you're seeing the name of the country. It's pretty straightforward, right? In terms of it. But what do you know? Tell me the ways that the information is being conveyed to you. I'm going to give away the easiest ones. The first one is that, of course, there is text information, right? And there's also the shape of the country. Granted, some of us can't necessarily pick out the shape of this. Maybe we can pick out the shape of the US because it's our close neighbor. We could pick out the shape of Jamaica. Chances are, if you come from a Caribbean island, you know the shape of your Caribbean island. But probably a lot of us don't know these shapes, which is why the names are there. But how else is information being conveyed in this?
By color coding.
Exactly. But not only you're getting warm, what about the color coding?
The order of the colors.
Right.
Yeah, the warmer colors are the less maternity leave.
Oh, hold on. Crooks was there. What are you saying, Crooks?
The warmer colors.
No, not Crooks.
Tiana.
Tiana. Yeah.
I was saying that it's going in the order of the rainbow, and from the red to the blue, it increases in number.
True. Getting warmer. What were you saying, Crooks?
The warmer colors represented like the less weeks. Sorry, no, it's weeks. Yeah, weeks. And then as it goes up, the colors get cooler.
Right, which is a kind of exactly what was previously said, but I'm waiting for something else. Like What's the subtle message that's being communicated? Hmm? Lisa, Monique, you want to give it a shot? You already got a clue, right? We're talking about the colors, and yes, the warmer colors, and it goes to the cooler colors, yeah.
I'm thinking the colder it gets, the more weeks are added.
True. But what is that? What's the story behind that? It's almost like when I asked you last
Explanation
week.
in order.
Oh, is it the
Is it
is it a type of country? I don't know.
Remember when I was asking you what's the story in this one last week? And you guys told me, oh, well, what this is really saying is that, like, yeah, we haven't compared to what we've done. We've not gotten anywhere. Because look, it's just a little blimp in the whole thing. So there's also another story in this. And yes, the color is there, but what about it?
I guess the color kind of hints to how the maternity paid leave decreases, because red would
Uh-huh.
normally mean that, it's in like a danger zone.
Ah, exactly. Red is bad.
Mm-hmm.
Just simply that. So, you know, whether you want to say green is better than blue or blue is better than green, the fact is that we generally associate with red is bad, yellow is danger, and the greens and the blues are more heavenly and calm, right? So the more paid maternity leave you get is a good thing. So that is in the cooler, or that is represented as good. Whereas red, danger, stop, avoid, bad, that is in where you have the least colors. Though the US is shown to here to have 0. Granted, this is from a long time ago, so I don't know if this still goes, right? Right. Anyway, that is the other thing that it is telling us. And again, as I said, what's happening here is that you're layering information together. And that's the big difference with a chart. Like if I should look on um if I should look on a chart like this, it's just a chart. Imagine you have a pancake or a sandwich where you can layer information on top of each other. That's kind of what infographics is. When you're able to bend the information to lay it back on each other, meaning, yes, you use color to represent, yes, you used text to represent the country and you use the shape of the country, but you also use the color to help convey subtly red is bad. So it's like layering that information together with creativity as well, right? And there are a couple others that we see here. This one is a very popular one that we might see where it's talking about buildings that are lean in the world, right? And it's using the outline of the building itself. Now, some of these buildings you may recognize, some not. That's why you put the text below it. But it's not only communicating the name of the building, it's also communicating how lean the building is. And on top of that, it is communicating how high the building is as well. So it's almost like you're layering multiple sets of information together. And that is kind of what an infographic is meant to do. Like you're not just showing a bar chart and it done. No, you are combining different types of information together and you're mixing that with creativity. Right? So for example, what you could say in a lot of words, you could summarize in just a few things. And this is probably something that's very popular to you guys, especially in the creative field, right? If I'm in the creative field, then Albert, Alison, how are you doing?
I'm alive-ish. I'm here.
You're here. That's lovely. And let's say this is your resume that is going out when you leave CSA, as you are now at the exit door. It's easy to know which applications you would be best at, right? Even without reading a big sentence, right? So you can use infographics in these ways as well, right? Now I wanted to put the shape of the information because some graphs you can read without looking at the information. This is an interesting type of graph. It's called a population pyramid. It's used in different ways to represent the population, especially if you're into economics and these things. And it's if you're familiar with what this graph is, you don't even have to know what the numbers are saying. You can just look at this graph here and say that, whoa, there are a lot of young people that live here. And you can look at this one here and say, whoa, there are a lot of middle-aged persons that live here. There are not a lot of newborns. Because just by the shape and you knowing what the information represents, right? So I'm showing this to you to say that shapes of information can have important meanings, especially if you mix it with creativity. There are many creative ways that you could probably mix this shape as well. Now, all this type of information you're seeing here is information that you can or may present in your architectural presentation, especially that you're going on study tour. You're going to be talking about things like maybe what are the types of businesses in the area. You're probably going to be looking on things like population density, access, egress. You're probably going to be looking on especially typology of buildings, all of these things. Think about how you could creatively represent them using infographics, right? So when you guys are presenting your study tour information, we don't want to see anything like this, where you have the name and the graph, and the name and the graph. No, we want to see creative things, things that I don't need to read this here to know that, oh, this is talking about Tepe. No, I can just, oh, this is Tepe, and it's like about the middle when you compare all of these. Like the how quick information can travel to your brain here is like lightning speed compared to you having to read each one of this, right? So your infographic, you want it to be structured, you want it to tell an overall story. That's usually one of the things about infographics, because you want to convince people. Like if I go back to the presentation here, you want to convince people that in this case, that this proposal here, which is a creative campus, you want to sell the story that this is the best place to put it because you have a lot of different types of businesses here, right? And your graph is what you help to communicate that, rather than saying it where it can just go in one ears and come out the other of whoever you're presenting to. You don't want to put it as large bodies of text because you're not necessarily going to read it. You need to communicate it quickly that, hey, your building is the missing puzzle piece that you need for commerce in this area, right? So we have, it's the same kind of, if you go into Excel and these places and it where you can create a bar chart and a pie chart and all of these things, in a way you're kind of creating those, but you're mixing it with creativity. And you're also trying to layer information to communicate a holistic story at the end, right? Just like with what we were seeing here, it's trying to communicate the story that, hey, we're not doing enough. You know, and a successful infographic is one that can convey that information. right? Now, these are different types of infographic. Infographic doesn't have to be charts, but charts is the most popular ones. You can have informational infographics, which is where you just have text and then maybe a description. So if I'm interested, as I said, in one particular type of aspect of your design, first my eyes will gravitate to the icon, and then I can choose to read the text. It shouldn't be the other way around where I have to read to find what I'm interested in, right? So this is informational. Then you have kind of creative, where it doesn't have to be, it's kind of similar to informational. Then you have a timeline. This is used a lot. Perfect tool for your study tour, right? So a timeline is a type of information graphics. And the trick is that if you can find ways to overlap information. So for example, this is a timeline and you are seeing the buildings along the timeline. That's one type of information. It also has a time bar there that tells you the year, but then it has other information that's also there, and you have some information that overlaps. And so this is kind of mixing a timeline with a kind of bar chart, kind of a thing. That is the beauty of information graphics, because you can layer them on top of each other, right? You have a process information graphics. We use this a lot in architecture. So you can follow your process, how you got from point A to point B, right? We use this a lot with concepts, right? Then you have comparative. So you're comparing. So maybe you want to say, oh, these were the types of root blocks arrangements that we have in this scheme. And you can easily look at this and compare it to this one, and very very useful information, right? Then you have location infographics. So these are things like maps. The location infographics is what we saw at the very beginning, kind of where we saw how Jon Snow overlaid a bar chart on top of a location to convey the information. This one is really a subway thing, which there's another deeper story with this, and we'll probably dive into this later on, which we're going to use in architectural infographics, right? And you're going to have an additional skill to create architectural infographics. It's a little different than just regular infographics, right? So we're going to talk a little bit about that in our next topic, but we're going to stick to information now, right? So even your bubble diagrams are a type of infographic if you really think about it, right? It has to do with location. Is the bathroom located here and is it connected to here? It's the same type. Now, I want us to jump into, before our time is up, I want us to look a little bit into how we can create an infographic. First thing we need, let us create the reason for the infographic. Now, if you head over to the website, here we go. If you head over to the website, we scroll down, you will see our first assignment. Ooh. All right. Using lessons and techniques learned from infographics, create an infographic poster that visually summarizes the following extract taken from Jamaica Statistical Institute 2019 report on Montego Bay. Now, when you guys go on study tour, chances are, well, hopefully you can get information from your local municipal. So that will help you to identify, things like demographics and typology and land use and all this kind of thing, because that's what you study when you go on a measured on a oh, what's wrong with my brain? When you go on a study tour. Now, a lot of times your information will look like this. You will get a document that will say, for example, at the end of 2018, Montego Bay represented approximately 5% of Jamaica's population and accounting for roughly 71% of the parish residents. Imagine you're going up to present your, I don't know, your design or your study tour findings. And you could say this in your presentation, but you could also show it in a graph. So what I want us to do is you guys are going to select any two of these statements, and you are going to create an infographic to represent it, right? So the second one is Montego Bay's population has been rising steadily for the past few decades, with data from 1991 to 2018 indicating an increase of an approximately 1% per year, adding to its population over 35,000 new residents over the last 27 years. Right? This is information that's taken from the municipal. These are documents that you're going to get when you go on study tour, or if you do decide to come back for your master's and you go on an urban study to study cities. This is the kind of data that the cities store, so that when you propose your building, your new bank or your new library, you know that the location that you're putting it is ideal, because you know the demographics and how close schools are and all of these things, right? All right. So you following me, Marissa?
Yes, I'm following you, sir.
Right. So now we can kind of see the importance of summarizing information, because this information, it's somewhat bulky to say as a presentation. And even if you say it, it's not going to stick in everybody's brains. You need to have this information on your sheet somewhere, in your document, somewhere that, it's there as a part of your presentation. The last one is talking about employment. So Montego Bay's population seems to be fairly young, with more than 50% of its residents being below the age of 30. The working class, categorized as ages between 25 and 60, accounts for 47% of its residents, excluding those who work below the age of 25. Quite a mouthful of information, right? It's very interesting reading these, because this is how we store information. I would argue that these booklets that the municipal stores should have infographics as a part of that goes along with each of these statements, because you could just look on that graphic and say, oh, you'd pick up this information instantly. Anyway, so this is what you guys are going to do, right? Now, don't worry, I'm not going to push you out into the deep waters by yourself. I am going to suggest ways that you can approach doing an infographic. Now that you know what it is, and we have a mission, we want to represent this in an infographic. Remember, you're only to choose two, right? Don't do all three, please. Just choose two. And don't do one either. You need to choose two, any two. You may use any software your choice. I'm going to recommend Adobe Illustrator and maybe Photoshop if you want. The information should be on 11 by 17. You're not going to print it, but when you format the sheet, it should be 11 by 17. It can be landscape or portrait. Usually this kind of information is better portrait, but it's up to you. Doesn't matter. Ensure It needs to be a JPEG or a PDF, preferably PDF. And you want to ensure that all the contexts are visible, can be read clearly. So please, no number 9 fonts or number 7 fonts. I guess that's small. So what I want to touch base with you on is how to create an infographic. And then we're going to have a working class, next class, which is Saturday, where we'll actually be, I'm hoping that we can kind of figure out how to do this in program. Like point out some resources that you can use, how you can go about starting, from a blank page. What do I do first? I'm staring at a blank canvas. Well, what I suggest, the first thing you do is to collect your information, collect your data. Now, in this case, I have given you the data already. I mean, I've given you a nice sentence that has exactly what you should do. Now, usually that's not the case. Usually, if you went on a study tour and I told you to study this area and tell me what are your findings, you have to define for yourself what your findings are. I didn't say study this area and tell me how much barbershops you find. No. What are your findings? So when you go to your study tour, you are probably going to have to discover things on your own. You are going to have to create the thing that you want to present an infographic on. You might notice that, wow, there's an awful lot of lack of sidewalks in this area. And you want to communicate that. So then your data is, I'm comparing roads with sidewalks to roads without sidewalks. You need to say that in a sentence, and then you go from there. So that is what it means to collate your information. Now, the next thing you want to determine is what kinds of diagrams do I want to use, right? We don't reach the creativity part yet, We're just talking the diagrams. So if you remember the example that we showed earlier, when we spoke about the Earth having 24% access to clean water, what diagrams do I want to use? Before you think of, oh, I'm going to show the Earth as a globe and I'm going to have water, and what diagrams do I want to use? And if you have experience doing this, you can probably put 2 and 2 together. But I want to give you this resource. If you come to the mirror board, you click on it. This is an awesome resource. It's from a website called datavisualizationproject.com. And what it does, it pretty much gives you every possible, maybe, diagram. It's not infographics. It's just straight up diagrams. So we know about bar chart and pie charts, but did you know about polar area chart? What do you say, Nikki? You heard about that one?
No, sir, never heard of that one.
Exactly. There are so many charts that exist. So this is why I'm saying, this is why I give you this resource, because there are so many ways that you can represent information, right? So many ways. And this is a good place to start if you don't already have that in your head already, right? Like, check out this one, which is a type of pie chart, or even this one, sunburst diagram. If I click on this, and then it gives you examples of sunburst diagrams used. So for example, this one, really cool. And do I have an example here?
Sir, does the website allow you to edit these? Like, is it like a template,
very
or is it
no.
just
Very
like
no. Very no. Nope. Come on, where's the fun in that?
What's the name of the website?
The website, I encourage you, head over to the mirror board and click on the link. I want you guys to practice to go to the mirror board. There are people who have gone through the module and they have not checked the mirror board. And then years pass and we would talk and they say, you know that you showed me this information on the mirror board and I'm sorry I didn't check it at the time. So come on, guys, check the mirror board. There is stuff there and the links are there. You can just click on it, bam, it come up same time. I'm trying to find. Oh. Oh man, I thought I put this on the mirror board and I didn't. I probably did at some point. Yes. I found it. I'm gonna also add this to the mirror board for your viewing. This one was another nice looking one. I'm gonna put the link here. By the way, links on the mirror board, how they work is that you click on it and then you click on this little button here. Right? When you click on it, it's not going to come up. You have to click this little thing that pops up above it. All right. But I want to show you an example of this sunburst diagram. This is a very famous diagram. It's used a lot in architecture. And you guys, especially if you do your master's, you are definitely going to come across this diagram, right? So what makes a great place and where you have sociability, you can see this breaks out into it being diverse, cooperative, friendly, welcoming. And then you will see street life contributes to welcoming and interactive, and volunteerism contributes to pride and being neighborly. So this is a sunburst diagram, and it's a very famous one. I put the article here. This will even help you in your design studio a lot. What makes a place great? Pretty awesome stuff. But anyway, back to infographics. So I was speaking about this this website. And I was speaking about the steps in creating an infographic. So decide what type of chart you're going to use, right? So you're going to have that there, right? Then look for visual opportunities to present the data. Now, Rachel is going to tell me, what do I mean by look for visual opportunities to represent the data? What do I mean by that? Are you there, Rachel?
Sorry, sir, I wasn't paying attention. Can you repeat?
Well, the question is what it is. I'm talking about the steps in creating an infographic, which is what you're about to do. We spoke about putting the information together, selecting the type of chart, which is where I showed you this website. And the next one was look for visual opportunities to represent the data. How we're creating an infographic. What do I mean by that? Visual opportunities. Any luck? Anybody want to give it a try?
That means I look for examples or ideas of how you can represent the data.
Yes, true.
Sir, does it mean to
go ahead, Alison.
Try to select the best graphic to visualize the information that you're trying to visualize? Yes.
True. True, also true, also true.
Sir, conduct research. See which one.
Well, all of this is a process of research, right? When I say visual opportunities, I mean, I use the word opportunities because, for example,
Mood board.
we were talking about close to that. We were talking about the first example with the Earth, right? So a visual opportunity is, hey, we can use the Earth globe to represent a pie chart. Or we could use the
Also like graphic icons. So it's like where you had like the buildings as like the thing you want to
right,
represent.
right. Keyword there is opportunity, right? We could use. Okay, this thing is not showing. Come on, thing. We could use. God, where are you? Here we are. Yeah, F5. Why does it go to the first slide? Okay, never mind. Here. We could use, this swirly thing to represent traveling from one place to the other. We could also use this plate to talk about a balanced meal, right? Right. So it's or as you said a while ago, the buildings, the shape of the buildings. So these are all visual opportunities. Some of them are very evident, but some of them you have to search. And some of them, you see, it also matches the type of graph that you want to create, right? By the way, did you know a type of quote unquote graph doesn't have to have a graph? That's why I like this website very much. So, if I take a look at this, like, yeah, like this, a scaled up number. This is a graph. So it doesn't have to be a pie chart or something, right? And if you look at the way that these examples are used, right, you can look at this. See, it just has a big text and then the text below it. So this is an awesome resource. I'm glad this website is still around. I've used it over the last like 10 years, right? So visual opportunities, and you will lay out these opportunities as a sketch. So for example, this is where the sketching part comes in. It's like, okay, this pie chart that's here, that's a pie chart with the thing here. I can use it as a globe and have the water down here. So, this is a sketch of the opportunity that I want to take advantage of, as an example. No, it doesn't even have to be sketch, but I think sketch is the most powerful because, like, even though this looks like crap, in my mind, I know that this is a pie chart and this is the earth, right? So I have a idea in my brain of what I want it to look like, right? I want to use the opportunity that a pie chart is round to combine that with the earth because it's also round. And I would summarize that as an opportunity. The next step is your theme. This is the graphics part of it now. This is going back to designing your studio sheet. How am I going to lay out the sheet and the graphics? This goes back to creating a poster. Anything that this is the creative part of it now. Tie these visual opportunities together with a theme. So here are some good resources. Visme is a good one as well. And this is where the word templates come in. Like, the truth is that you can use graphical templates a lot. Some of them are free. Like, this website has some free ones and some paid ones. Canva is a great resource as well. They have a lot of templates that's just available for you. I like this one because it is where is it? Because it's only infographic templates, right? Oh, really? Do I have to? Okay, fine. I thought I could just view it without signing in. There you go. Have my data. Okay, good. Right. So this is a place that sells templates, actually. I will just pick that. Oh, wow. Okay. That. Continue. Finally. So, oh, wow, this website has changed. It wasn't like this before. Of course, they have an AI thing. Everybody has AI. Okay. All right. Okay. Uh, hmm. I haven't been here in a while. Okay. That has changed. So let me look at this one. So there's also resources where you can view. So even on Shutterstock, that is quite expensive for providing stock image, but you can type infographic, and you can get a lot of just ideas for themes, right? Like even if you don't use this template, you don't have to buy the template. But because sometimes what you're doing is really simple, you just need an inspiration like this. Like you might say, this is exactly, I would want it to look something like this with the world. You might look on this and say, open. Okay. Right. You might look on this and say, oh, this is pretty cool. Where I can have the world, and then I can have this thing fan out like that, and then I can have it to be yellow with a white background. So this is theme. This is theme. And usually what I recommend is that at this stage, use templates or use inspirations from templates, right? If you can, right? Of course, you can also use Google to find these things. And I added this one. Oh, this one is actually a video that speaks about how you can do it. Guys, I put some resources here on the mirror board. Please check them out. Don't ignore them and go out and try and swim on your own. This one is really great because it is a set of tutorials that just tell you how to do some of these things. Like for example, if a part of what you want to create is something that has, these things here, and this shows you a way how you can create it, which is pretty cool. And this is Illustrator, I believe, is it? No, this is actually Photoshop, right? So please check these tutorials out. I handpicked them for you. Right, so this is created the theme. So at this stage, this is where you go into your program, your Photoshop, your Illustrator, your InDesign, and you start to actually either start from a pre-made theme or get inspired by a theme to create your own. These are some resources that you can use for your design. Infographics has a lot of charts and it has a lot of icons. So here are some resources you can use. So for example, and a lot of these are free actually. So do we know, anybody know of the Known project? Anybody use this website? Anybody?
No, sir.
No, sir. What? You're in architecture, you don't use the Known project? What are you talking about, man? Come on. So the Known project is a website that you can get icons for everything, right? I mean everything. And some of these icons are really simple and I don't know. Search for colonial style building, maybe. There we go. Icons. Icons galore. And you just click on it and you download it. Most of them is, oh, hold on, free with subscription. Hey, let me tell you a secret. Don't worry about this. Grab this image, throw it in Illustrator, and just use the image to vector tool. We're going to do that next week, so don't worry about it. Free pick is another one. I'm hoping that you guys know a free pick, right? You would have used it last semester. Anybody use free pick?
No, sir.
What? Come on, somebody here must use free pick. So free pick is
Yes, sir.
right. So free pick
Yes,
is
sir.
right. It's like when you have Shutterstock and these expensive places that sell stock image. Free pick is free, and it has some pretty good stuff. Remember, this is content for your infographic, right? Icon finder. Icons is the heart of an infographic, guys. Like, yeah. Pixent, Pixden, what's this one again? This one is, keep opening up over here. Inspire Design Resources. This has just a lot of inspirational stuff, guys. Like, please check out these links you can use to find resources for your design. And then you're going to produce it. So you're going to use either Illustrator, which is what I recommend, Photoshop or InDesign if you want, or a combination of the three. All right, so in summary, get your information ready. You have that already. You have your assignments. Choose the type of diagrams you want to create. Look for visual opportunities to represent the data. Put them down in a sketch or something that you can recognize later.
Sir, could we do this in the notes?
Oh, but of course.
Okay.
And that's where I was going to come to next. Tie the visuals together in a theme. So look up a theme. Even if it doesn't have to be a template that you buy, it could just be a template that you can see. You guys are creative. You can create a simpler version or something. Then search for resources. You know, you're going to need, if you're talking about cars, you're going to need icons of cars. You're going to need background pictures of like, these are your resources, and build your infographic, right? Now we're going to look at some of these infographics, and we're going to kind of break down how would I even begin to create something like this? And I'm hoping that you guys would have learned to do this from Advanced Computing 2 first assignment that speaks about visual community, advanced visualizations, where you experiment with other software. I'm hoping that you can fall back on that experience to kind of, figure out, okay, maybe I can use Photoshop or I can use SketchUp and get a 3D shape, and then I can take the 3D shape into Twinmotion and render a view, and then take that into Photoshop and blah, 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 blah. That is the process that you're going to do now. And we're going to take a look at some of these graphs next week, not today. How can we create this? I mean, some of this is really simple, like, but then some of these are like complex. Like, how do we create this? This is really cool. All right, so what we're going to do is we are going to use our digital notebooks. So remember last class, we all created a OneNote notebook. And as the class activity, what you're going to do is when you come up with your idea. So for example, this is a sketch idea. This looks, you might be looking, what in the world is this? Well, remember, the beauty is in the eyes of the beholder. I might look at this and say, I don't know what this is, but when I sketch it, I am trying to say that, look, I'm going to show a 3D map of Jamaica, and then I'm going to have bar charts flying out of that map. That is what this is saying. And this was scribbled together in my digital notebook. So I want you guys to use that digital notebook. You don't have to. You can draw it with your hands and take a picture and put it in the notebook. You don't have to draw it in the notebook itself. But the key thing is that I want you to use your digital notebook. And not only do I want you to use it, like whenever you go to use your notebook, I want you to remember what we spoke about last class. Okay, it's not here. Okay, I know where it is. It's up here somewhere. Is it this? No. Here it is. Right. Remember last class we spoke about how a digital notebook can store different types of information. So imagine you're doing your infographic. You know, maybe you found a video with a tutorial that tells you how to achieve a particular thing. Put the video in your notebook. Maybe you found a link to a website. Put the link in your notebook. Right? Put the information together, just like how we spoke about last class. Put that information together in your OneNote notebook. And for your class activity, you're going to send me a link to that notebook. So when I open your notebook, for example, like when I open your notebook, do I have an example here? Well, it's not exactly big, but I can see how your ideas came together to form the infographic. All right, guys? And you're going to submit that to me as a link. Now, you're not going to do that today, so don't worry about it. What I want you to do, though, is I want you to start to process how are you going to create this, this infographic. Next week, we'll have a working class, but I need you to come with your ideas already because, not next week, this week, technically. There is so much that we can do in 2 hours. I know it's a 3-hour class, but our brains tend to get frazzled after 2 hours. So I need you guys to not come as blank slates, right? I need you to come with your ideas. Like, look at this step-by-step process that I gave you, right? I want you to go to the website, select your chart type, put it on your notebook. I want you to look for visual opportunities. Where do you see the dots connecting with representing your infographic? Write it down, type it down, sketch it down in your book. And then next week when you come to class, I will be looking through those and you're going to submit that notebook page, well, the notebook to me as through a link. And that is how you do your first class activity, which is going to be this. So I'm going to call this activity number 1, infographics concept. You're going to submit that to me during class, next class. All right, guys?
No, what you said we're going to submit next class?
You're going to submit your infographics concept. You're going to go through these steps, and each one of these things, you're going to put it together in your digital notebook. So let me repeat again. You're going to go ahead, use this link or use your own links, choose a type of chart you want to represent. This website is very useful when it shows you all sorts of charts, and then it also gives you examples of how these charts can be used. It gives you actual examples right there. So select your chart, look for visual opportunities, make a note, sketch it down, find sources that you can use as a theme to tie your infographic together. Paste the sources in your notebook. Any ideas you have, write it down in your notebook. Search for your design sources. So places that you intend to use for your designs, put a link to it in the notebook as well. All right? Everybody understand?
Yes, sir.
All right. Well, that's going to do it for class today. There are some other methods to designing an infographics. We'll speak about those next week. But right now, I want you to go ahead and start to tackle this. I noticed that some of you are on the mirror board. Please take some time to look around. There's a lot of inspiring stuff here. All right, guys? And that's it for class today. I will see you on Saturday.
All right, sir.
Enjoy
So,
the
sir,
rest of your day,
sir, just one more time. So, we just start showing our progress of the assignment in the notebook, right?
That's correct. We'll look at that during class on Saturday.
All right, no problem. All right, thanks, sir.
No problem.
Take care.